The alien stepped through the shimmering portal, her skin flickering with curiosity and the faintest trace of nervous anticipation. Earth smelled odd. Not unpleasant, exactly, but chaotic in a way that made her multiple sensory organs tingle. She adjusted the straps of her research harness and activated her linguistic translator. Today, she would study the human species' most intimate behaviors firsthand. She had read the manuals, watched their holovids, and memorized every possible protocol for human sexual conduct. None of it prepared her for the subtle, unpredictable chaos of a living specimen in private. He lounged on his couch, the picture of careless confidence, a mischievous gleam in his eyes that screamed, "I know things you don't." He was human, and he had volunteered, in his own way, to serve as her living experiment. She noted the curvature of his posture, the casual flexing of muscles as he reached for a device she had only seen in schematics labeled pleasure intensifier. She had expected demonstrations, mild sensations, analytical notes, but not the intensity of actual engagement. Already, she felt a hum of apprehension through her exoskeletal nerves. "Greetings," she said, her voice precise and formal, though the slight quiver betrayed her curiosity. "I have volunteered to participate in a field test. My goal is the accumulation of maximum accurate data on human reproductive and recreational conduct." Her eyes flicked down at the device. "From my understanding, this will simulate human sexual activity to a measurable degree?" He smirked. "That's one way to put it. Don't worry, it's just a little interactive. Depth varies." His choice of words made her sensors flare. Depth? Human humor often involved hyperbole, yet the literal interpretation sent a ripple of unease through her. She scribbled furiously in her digital notepad, "Depth. Variable. Potentially overwhelming. Clarify human subjective metrics." She knelt respectfully, aligning herself as instructed in the manuals, arms rigid at her sides, her tail curled for balance. She was a model student, but she hadn't counted on human improvisation. He leaned close, offering verbal instructions with a teasing undertone, which she catalogued meticulously while trying not to blush under the multiple chromatophores along her cheeks. "Just relax, follow my lead. You'll be fine." Fine, she thought, a simple word that in humans could mean disaster or delight. He placed the device in position, and immediately her body registered sensations far beyond anything she had predicted. Her legs tensed involuntarily, her neural pathways firing erratically as her mind struggled to catalog the intensity. She pressed her palms together in a gesture of polite apology. I am experiencing higher than anticipated stimulation. My lower extremities may be compromised. This was not indicated in your prior schematics." He chuckled, a rich human sound vibrating against her auditory sensors. "Just hold on. That's normal, mostly." His words carried an unintended double meaning, and she made a mental note. Human communication involves layers of literal and suggestive content simultaneously, a nightmare of interpretation. Trying to maintain dignity, she continued with clinical observations: heart rate elevated, breathing accelerated, auditory intake enhanced, cognitive processing overwhelmed by pleasure vectors, legs possibly offline. She scribbled these notes, while simultaneously grappling with the bizarre sensation of partial immobility in her lower limbs. The hum of embarrassment mixed with awe in her circuitry, and she realized her politeness protocol required verbal acknowledgement of her state. "My apologies, my legs may not function as intended. I am fully committed to data collection." He leaned closer again, voice softening with teasing warmth. "Fully committed, huh? Don't worry, I've got you." That single phrase, innocent yet suggestive, caused a cascade of confused chromatic signals across her skin. Politeness demanded a verbal reply, but neural overload threatened speech. She managed a weak, formal response. "Acknowledged. Your support is appreciated." Her tail twitched nervously as her mind tried to balance scientific observation with rapidly escalating, unplanned pleasure. Every instruction from the human, every adjustment of his hand sent shockwaves through her system. She noted with grim fascination the intensity of human-designed pleasure simulation and the utter lack of predictability inherent in their biology. One wrong angle, one misapplied pressure, and her legs might fail entirely. Yet, as impossible as it was to admit aloud, part of her, biological, emotional, or whatever approximated curiosity in her species, wanted to continue, even as her system warned of overload. The human grinned, eyes sparkling with mischief and an unspoken promise of more. "Ready for the real test?" he asked. She straightened her posture, trying to radiate calm composure, even as her lower limbs threatened mutiny. "Affirmative. Proceed with caution. Data integrity is my primary objective." She had no idea what she had just volunteered for, but one thing was clear: human intimacy was far more extreme, and far funnier, than any interstellar report had ever suggested. The moment he adjusted the device, a surge of intensity shot through her, and the alien's carefully maintained composure wobbled like a ship in a storm. She froze mid-motion, her limbs betraying her with twitching spasms she could neither fully control nor predict. "It's so deep," she gasped, voice a mixture of awe and panic. I cannot feel my legs." Her words trembled, polite yet horrified, as she realized her lower extremities were utterly unresponsive. He froze, caught between panic and amusement, his fingers hovering in midair. You're supposed to say that like it's scientific, not scream it like you're under siege," he muttered, trying to maintain the illusion of control. His attempts at reassurance were drowned in the absurdity of her predicament. Her tail curled stiffly under her, twitching like a snake preparing to strike, betraying the polite calm she tried to project. "Apologies," she squeaked. "I seem to be incapacitated below the pelvis. Is this a normal occurrence for your species?" Every word was carefully enunciated, but the phrasing made him snicker. "Mostly normal, depending on the participant, and well, the preparation level," he replied, with a double meaning she catalogued but did not yet understand. Her sensory receptors flared in chaotic delight. She could feel every micro-vibration, every subtle movement of the device, and every twitch from the human's hand. Her body betrayed her analytical mind, and she struggled to take notes, with one functional appendage while the other twitched uncontrollably. "Data collection continues," she muttered through clenched teeth. "But variables are exceeding anticipated thresholds." She scribbled, her notepad quivering as if it too feared the sensations. He leaned closer, voice softening to a teasing murmur. "You're handling that surprisingly well, considering." She blinked rapidly, trying to process whether his tone was a warning, a compliment, or something far more suggestive. Her brain calculated probabilities but could not account for the creeping heat in her core, the sudden paralysis of her legs, or the strangely delightful chaos of her neural impulses. Attempting to maintain dignity, she shifted slightly, sending herself into a delicate wobble that nearly toppled her. "I appear to be losing equilibrium," she said, voice carefully polite. "My legs are non-functional. Assistance may be required for continued observation." Her phrasing, formal and courteous, only amplified the absurdity of the moment. He fought not to laugh, offering a hand with exaggerated care. "Here, let me help stabilize you," he said, voice playful, eyes glinting with mischief. The alien's sensors flared in nervous gratitude. "Acknowledged," she replied, her tone overly formal for someone who had just shouted about her legs not responding. She clutched his arm like a lifeline, face flushing multiple shades, as if her embarrassment could physically manifest as color. Every movement sent new waves of stimulation through her. She squeaked a protest, half polite apology, half unintentional moan. "This intensity exceeds expectations. Leg motor functions remain offline. Core stability questionable." The human's laughter threatened to break the strict decorum she tried to maintain. "You sound like a war report," he said, voice low. "Not a field test participant." She noted his comment in her mental log, tagging it as an example of human humor under duress, while simultaneously trying to regain composure. Her hands twitched nervously, scribbling, trying to maintain order in her data while chaos surged through her. She could not walk, could barely shift her hips without flailing, and every micro-adjustment from him sent sparks of unexpected pleasure across her body. Her tail lashed once, twice, as if scolding her for losing control, yet she forced herself to continue verbalizing her experience. Legs, unresponsive. Cognitive clarity, diminishing. This is extraordinary. Each word was labored, punctuated by audible breaths that betrayed her precise control over phrasing. He leaned even closer, teasing with a soft whisper that made her blush and shiver simultaneously. "You're doing amazing, just trust me." Her body reacted before her mind could fully process, sending her sensors into overdrive. Politeness demanded acknowledgement, yet embarrassment demanded silence. "Acknowledged," she managed, voice strained. "I trust your guidance, though lower extremities remain offline." She realized then that this was not a mild test, nor a casual observation. This was extreme, uncharted, and far beyond anything she had prepared for. And yet, buried under the panic, embarrassment, and numb legs, a small, curious thrill tickled her scientific mind. Human intimacy was far more unpredictable, potent, and hilariously chaotic than any manual had ever suggested. Her lower limbs were completely unresponsive, yet she attempted a dignified adjustment, wobbling like a ship caught in a gravitational anomaly. Each twitch of her tail, every subtle movement of her sensors, betrayed her composure, but politeness demanded she remain articulate. "Core stability, critically compromised. Assistance, recommended," she gasped, voice formal yet utterly flustered. The human's grin widened, clearly enjoying the absurdity of her predicament. "Relax, you're fine," he said, voice soft, teasing, but somehow commanding. "Just let yourself feel it." Her sensors flared with simultaneous horror and intrigue. Let herself feel it? That was dangerously vague. Her brain, or whatever equivalent the aliens used, scrambled to reconcile formal protocol with the tidal wave of sensation surging through her. She tried to take notes, but her appendages refused cooperation. Scribbling became a chaotic dance of one functional limb flailing while the other twitched uselessly. "Legs, unresponsive," she announced, tone polite, each word punctuated by involuntary tremors. "I appear to be in a state of maximum stimulation. This exceeds all previously recorded thresholds for voluntary motor function." She craned her head, attempting to observe the human's reactions without losing balance, but her body betrayed her at every turn. The human chuckled, a rich, teasing sound that vibrated through her auditory sensors, sending fresh currents of shock through her system. He reached to stabilize her, fingers brushing her side with a teasing lightness. "You're handling that amazingly," he said, voice low, playful, deliberately suggestive. She stiffened, chromatic sensors flickering rapidly. "Handling that." She catalogued the phrase, noting its ambiguous double meaning while simultaneously wishing her legs would regain some measure of function. "Acknowledged," she murmured, voice strained. "I am managing under extreme conditions." Every micro-adjustment he made, every shift in posture, triggered fresh waves of sensation. Her tail lashed once, twice, thrashing like a whip in protest or perhaps pleasure. It was impossible to tell. Her polite annotations became fragmented, lower appendages, offline. Core systems, overwhelmed. Sensory input, dangerously high. Humorous element noted, human smiles while I flail uncontrollably. She tried to articulate her discomfort without appearing unprofessional, each syllable an effort. "This depth, intensity, surpasses anticipated parameters. My lower extremities remain compromised." The human bit back a laugh, leaning close with a mischievous gleam. "Surpassing anticipated parameters, huh? Sounds like you're enjoying it more than you're letting on." That single line, innocent yet suggestive, caused her chromatic blush sensors to spike violently. Her body betrayed her scientific detachment as the human guided her through delicate adjustments, balancing between assistance and flirtation. "I seem to require stabilization," she admitted, voice polite, tone strained, eyes flicking nervously. Your assistance is most appreciated. Each word trembled under the overwhelming intensity of her sensations, a mix of embarrassment, awe, and bizarre delight. He whispered close, voice a mixture of teasing and reassurance. You're doing great, really, just trust me. Her sensors flared in response, chromatic shifts racing along her skin in patterns she could neither control nor describe. Politeness demanded acknowledgement, yet every fiber of her being screamed embarrassment. Acknowledged, trust, established, though lower appendages remain non-functional. In the midst of the chaos, she attempted a minor shift, resulting in a spectacular wobble that sent her crashing gently against him. I appear to have lost stability entirely, she gasped, flustered and mortified. The human caught her effortlessly, laughter vibrating in her auditory channels. Totally normal, he murmured, voice warm and playful. Maximum stimulation tends to do that. Her brain scrambled, trying to retain control while her body rode waves of intense, absurd pleasure. Notes were scribbled mid-flail, mental logs added in frantic bursts. Human endurance, impressive. Personal control, failing. Embarrassment, acute. Humor, abundant. Data integrity, possibly compromised. Yet beneath the panic, a spark of curiosity, a human-inspired thrill, flickered. This was beyond research. It was an experience she could never have predicted, blending chaos, pleasure, and laughter into a singular, unforgettable test. Gradually, the alien felt her lower limbs regain function, though every step was tentative, as if her legs had forgotten how to cooperate. She straightened with effort, tail twitching nervously, her sensors still tingling with residual waves of intensity. Motor functions partially restored, she said, voice formal but edged with lingering embarrassment. It appears the primary phase of data collection is complete, though side effects persist. Her meticulous tone belied the heat flushing her sensors and the occasional shiver she couldn't quite suppress. The human leaned back, still smiling with mischief. Side effects, huh? That's the polite way of saying you had a total meltdown. He waved his hand as if brushing off the chaos she'd endured, but his eyes gleamed with playful triumph. The alien blinked, adjusting her posture, trying to maintain dignity. Acknowledged. One could characterize the experience as intense, she replied, careful not to admit how much she had actually enjoyed, or been overwhelmed by, it. Her tail flicked in irritation, or perhaps residual pleasure, as she scribbled the final notes in her digital pad. Human species, unpredictable. Physical endurance, remarkable. Emotional expressions, confusing. Humor, highly effective in combination with stimulation. Warning, future tests may compromise leg mobility. She paused, fingers hovering over the final line, considering adding a personal note about the strange mixture of awe, embarrassment, and curiosity. He leaned closer, voice soft, teasing. So, would you volunteer for round 2, or are the legs still negotiating terms? She froze, chromatic sensors flaring multiple shades in rapid succession. Her pride and politeness demanded refusal, yet a curious thrill lingered beneath the embarrassment. Round 2 would require extensive preparation, she replied carefully, tone formal, though her body betrayed a subtle, lingering tension. Data integrity must remain the priority. He chuckled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face, or what passed for hair in her species, with playful care. You're really good at sounding scientific while being completely flustered, he said, grin widening. It's adorable. Her sensors surged at the compliment, sending a shiver down her spine, yet her formal training prompted her to respond. Acknowledged. Emotional response, noted. Thank you for the observation. Residual waves of sensation made her sway slightly, forcing her to cling lightly to the nearest surface. Leg function, still partial. Core systems, recalibrating. Humor, unavoidable in human proximity, she muttered, voice tight with polite embarrassment. The human laughed softly, the sound vibrating pleasantly, and added, Don't worry, your dignity is intact, mostly. I think. The alien noted the phrase as a human attempt at reassurance, although the tonal layering was confusing yet oddly comforting. She attempted a careful step forward, legs quivering like thin rods of metal, testing their stability. Recovery, progressing. Coordination, improving. Sensory input, remains heightened, she said, mentally cataloging each detail. Her tail twitched once, twice, an involuntary display of tension and residual excitement. I may require further observation to ensure complete acclimatization, she added, formal but subtly suggestive in phrasing. The human grinned, leaning closer again with unmistakable intent. Observation sounds like a good excuse for more interaction, he murmured. Her sensors flared, multiple shades of embarrassment and curiosity mingling across her skin. Politeness demanded a measured response. Observation, duly noted. Any further interaction must be executed under controlled conditions. Her phrasing, careful yet flirtatious, caused him to laugh, shaking his head in mock defeat. They shared a brief, awkward silence, each processing the aftermath in their own way. The alien's tail twitched nervously while she finalized her notes. Human interaction, surprisingly effective in producing pleasure and humor simultaneously. Recommendations: continue study cautiously, anticipate leg paralysis, prepare emotional resilience protocols. Finally, she straightened fully, a faint smirk, unintentional yet undeniably present, crossing her features. Field test concluded. Data successfully obtained. Recommendations for further exploration will be submitted at a later time. The human chuckled, leaning back comfortably. Glad to hear it. And I think we both survived, mostly intact. The alien's sensors flickered in amusement, her form relaxing as she allowed herself a small, genuine laugh, the tension dissolving into lingering warmth and mutual teasing. It was clear, Earth's intimacy, chaotic and unpredictable, had surpassed her expectations in every way, leaving her both scientifically enlightened and hopelessly flustered. And somehow, despite embarrassment, residual sensations, and wildly overactive lower limbs, she couldn't wait for the next field test.